Welcome back to another episode of Naja News. You know, I'm sitting here with Steph Watts. You all know who Steph is. A lot of you got introduced to me because you saw me for the first time with Steph. He called me up the other day and he said, Naja, we should do a year-end review because it's been an extraordinary year for the both of us. And we kind of want to give you all a rundown of some things that have happened. So, Steph Watts, welcome back.
Thank you for having me. I had to come all the way across the bridge. I was like, are we doing this remote? And she's like, no, you got to come to the studio.
You got to get dressed up and you got to come over here.
Right.
So first and foremost, we're here on YouTube, we're TikTok, we're Facebook, Instagram, all of the places. But you guys probably have seen Steph and I together because we worked on, and we're still working on, a very important case that's happening in Chicago. So you might recognize us from that. But we do want you to get to know us beyond that and give you some updates on what's happening on that case, because y'all know Steph has a hookup on insight on that case. But we have a really big announcement. The first thing in our year-end review that I have to bring up, and we didn't talk about it before. I don't want to cry. We just started. We didn't talk about it before, but you all don't notice. But while this man was sitting doing videos with me, I'm hassling him about the case. He was going through rounds of chemotherapy and radiation, and we just have to announce that Steph Watts is officially free of stage 4 prostate cancer. This man is healed in Jesus' name. So
thank you.
That's a big deal. Like,
thanks. Yeah, it was a lot, you know, and I think, you know, I asked you to bring it up because I think it's really important to just tell everybody, especially the male viewers, you know, get tested, know, you know, your status, because I think if I had been checked earlier, like I'm always about early detection.
Yeah.
Had I have addressed this earlier, because I was a typical guy that was like, I'm fine. And it may not have led to stage 4.
And I never asked you this before, but were there any symptoms?
Well, I had, there's sort of like, you know, if you want to get into the nitty gritty, like a little bit of like frequent urination, like I had a little pain in my side. I think I talked to you about that because I had stage 4 metabolic cancer, which meant the cancer had moved to my bones. So I could feel it. I had pain in certain areas. And then when the doctors came to me and said, you have stage 4 metabolic cancer, it's moved to your bones, it's in this part of your body.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, like it makes sense because I had discomfort there. So as you guys can see, I still have a little bit of like what I call cancer weight because I've been on hormones and steroids. But it's been a really challenging year. It's been really great to get through this. And
I'm so glad my friend is still here because not only are we colleagues, we're friends in real life. And this is a brother and I love him. So let's keep going because we got some stuff to talk about.
We do.
Yeah, we do.
We do. Just everybody, just do me a favor, get tested, get checked. You know, it's not, don't be afraid. Because you see these stories, Naja, of famous people that we know dying of prostate cancer.
And these are people with a lot of money and a lot of access to good doctors, good diets. And
I had basic, crappy health care from the state of New York, you know, and they were wonderful. So I don't want to, you know.
They saved your life.
What's that? Yes,
they saved your life. But you were diligent as well. Because I think did we see Shannon Sharp? There's a couple of other athletes that I can't name.
I believe O.J. Simpson.
O.J. died.
And
did he die of prostate
Martin
cancer?
Luther King's son.
He passed. Was it prostate cancer
I
this year?
believe so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So there's a few notable people, but one very important to me that is still here. So please,
thank you.
Y'all go and get tested. While we were making those videos that you guys were watching, he was, and we knew it, he was in the throes of his battle. He was in pain. He was medicated, but he still showed up. So,
there was days that you would call me and be like, I just can't do this.
Yeah. But, you know, look at him. He's here now. So also, what we decided to do, we're just going to kind of ping pong back and forth at each other. So this year also was a really big year for me because Steph brought me in on a project that he called me, and he always cooks up these projects, right? He's like, Naja, I met this guy. Do you know who George Santos is? And I live in New York City, and those of us New Yorkers, I've seen George's name in the headlines, but I was intentional about keeping a very comfortable distance away from politics. And that was in my own ignorance and naivete. And it was a privilege for me to not be engulfed in that world because it's triggering for me. It's triggering watching the crap on TV or seeing the stuff on our timeline. So Steph was like, there's this guy I met named George Santos. and I want to do a podcast around his redemption story. At that time, George had been ousted from Congress, and he was kind of on this redemption tour. He was facing indictment. He was facing many years on fraud and on wire fraud. And I believe it was some other charge. I can't remember. But he was facing some serious charges. Like, they wanted this dude in jail. So
they put him in jail.
They did put him in jail.
We'll get to that in a minute.
We'll get to that. So Steph calls me up and he's like, hey, I want you to kind of do a screen test with this guy. We have somebody, but Naja, I really feel like you're a shoo-in. So I ended up meeting George.
Well, let me tell the story.
Tell how it came together.
So I was executive producing a project for A&E called Lie Detector, which was we were going to strap people up and get them lie detector tests. So we had started casting George. His name came up, and we met with him, and he was a great candidate. But then the network switched to they only wanted to do big crimes, murder stories, which is obviously my forte. But that said, I had met George, and although I was familiar with his personality, I was, cautious about dealing with him. But George is charismatic, and he's a nice guy, and I liked him. And myself and my producing partner at the time both looked at each other and said, let's do a podcast with him. The podcast was supposed to be about redemption, but they were leaning more towards celebrity and high profile. They were looking for a co-host. They went through a lot of big names. And I always kept saying, Naja Hall would be great. My friend Naja would be great. Naja would be great.
Have people in your life that are going to call your name in rooms that you are not even in, because he did that.
But I did call you up, and I knew it was a shit show. I knew because, and I'm going to tell you, just guys, listen to the story because it is good. I knew it was going to head in a direction I didn't want it to head in, and I wasn't going to be involved in it. What did I say to you? Because I knew I wanted it to be about redemption. Right?
Your initial vision was,
and George wanted to be Joan Rivers. So we agreed that Naja would be the great co-host, and I said, Naja, you're going to do this, but I'm going to step out of this. And the production company lost money, and George wasn't paid, but Naja flew through the storm, and she faced some really controversial guests, and I felt bad because I had stepped away because it just wasn't authentic to me. It wasn't, in my heart. But I said to you, Naja, you're going to get paid, right? And really, the show was a flop. I don't mean to be disrespectful to you.
It's okay.
Because
not everything works.
No, because it was, and the reason I brought you in, because I wanted it to be a show about redemption and moving forward, and you was to be that person because of your brand about healing and forgiveness.
That's what I do for a living.
It turned into Naja being attacked by nasty white boys on YouTube, and I was horrified. But as friends, we had this conversation. Ooh. You knew what you were getting into.
Yeah.
And there were some times when you had called me and it was tough for you. Mm-hmm, and I apologize. But you know what? This is, our relationship is friendship, and we laugh and we love each other.
Yeah.
Like she's like a sister to me.
And we have the tough conversations. We do. And the thing is, you warned me in the beginning. He told me, he gave me a heads up. But nothing you said could have prepared me for the onslaught of what happened.
Right.
So what he's talking about with me getting attacked by the crazy white boys, there's this really popular YouTuber, and he's known as an agitator. I think he was 17 at the time, right? And he does this accent, which is not an authentic accent. And I thought he was a really nice kid. So off camera, he was actually pretty cool. We did some videos for content afterwards. But when we sat down, he started, you just can't work your way around it. Just saying racist things. And the racist tropes that you typically are going to throw at a black woman that looks like me, you're going to say, she's a man. She's strong. She's hyper masculine, because those are the things that are typically thrown.
That they said about Michelle Obama.
Yeah, Serena Williams.
Right.
Like any,
Williams.
The brown skinned girl phenotype, right? So he's 17 years old. I didn't expect him to be more complex with his task. So he did it. And so
his narrative.
It was simple. It was easy. And I hate to say this, in his defense, anytime he is faced because I do my research, anytime he has faced a woman that's besting him or that makes him feel smaller than he actually is, he does call her a man. So I can't necessarily say it was more of a race thing, more of just a patriarchy thing, because he's done it to women before. But again, this is a kid. The problem with that kid is that he has multi-millions and millions and millions of followers. So he and I had this on-screen battle, by the way, which was kind of scripted, but his fans don't know that. His fans don't know that his accent is not real. They don't know that this persona he has is not real. He represents the incels. And I had to learn the hard way, Steph, what an incel is. Do you know what an incel is?
No.
Involuntarily celibate. These kids that sit in their mom's basement, or these grown men that can't get a date, or they're involuntarily celibate, meaning women don't want me, but I'm such a great guy and I deserve some hoo-ha because I'm a guy. So there's this group of angry men that this kid represents. And so these kids started swarming my social media. They doxed me. They put stuff all over, like everywhere you could think of, emailing. You know, it was online bullying. But Miss Naja has been on the internet before it was a goddamn internet. Right.
And for me, if I can step in to see that as the person that brought you into that project. And I was telling him
about this as it was happening.
But I walked away from it. It was really painful, because I was like, this is not what I wanted to do. Because I really thought that there was an opportunity for you and George Santos to do a great podcast about redemption and moving forward. We all make mistakes. Everyone's made mistakes. Right. Owning them, and that's what it was supposed to be. So to see where it landed, and as a friend, to see you. Now, I don't want to say suffer, but to see you have to deal with this, I felt responsible. I did. I felt responsible.
You are not responsible for all of the angry white men of the world. And I'll say this: it was not only just young or older white men that were attacking me. It was white adjacent, meaning there were some black kids that assimilated to whiteness. There's Latina kids. So I was like, oh, this is a male thing. There was not one woman that I ever saw. And y'all listen, when Miss Naja has time, I'll go to your pages. And so there's one guy. Even the troll pages, because on the dark web, I have like an extra IP address. Like, y'all know what we do. So I can find you easily. And one day I was bored, and this one guy, I hit him up and I found his mother. And I sent his mom a screenshot. I was like, hey, do you know your son is saying this about women online? And he reached out to me. You didn't have to text my mom. And I was like, I didn't have to, but you didn't have to say what you said. Right. I don't have the time to hold every troll accountable. But what that taught me was a grand lesson. And it's something that we're seeing happening right now in the world. The white male victimhood, and so quick to attack somebody that's different. If
I can jump in, we are in Trump era, so that anger has been unleashed, and it's become an unfortunately acceptable part of society. So the timing was just so bad for this whole thing. It's like. And I'm sorry. Public apology.
When I was telling Steph about this, it wasn't for you to, when I was calling you, like, oh my God, because there's a part of me that understands human nature. What I do in real life is I study human nature and I predict human behavioral patterns. So these attacks, they weren't shit to me. I eat that like cupcakes. But I was like, oh, this is a great case study. And now what we see happening, J.D. Vance just made the announcement the other day, and I can't remember verbatim, but he said, if you are a white male that's basically felt the pangs or you've suffered because of DEI, then I have something for you. God. What I realized is a trick, though. And I, too, am building something for the white male Americans. I'm going to do that, and I'm announcing it here first. So J.D. Vance and those of the like want you to think that you are a victim. And the best way for someone to get you to join their cult or their group is to make you think you're sick or to make you think that you are a victim of something. And in this case, white males, they are tricking you into thinking that you are a victim of the immigrants, of the blacks, of the Mexicans, of the people that should have what's rightfully yours.
The trans community.
Right. And they've also lodged this PR campaign that if you're a white male, then you are a victim. Guys, we've all been hurt, but one thing I learned is no one's coming to save us. Because has Vance announced his run for presidency yet? I haven't been keeping up with that. If he hasn't, that's probably coming, like before we'll get this video out. But he's trying to rally the troops. What the system did, and I feel really bad for the white guys, it convinced white guys that they are at the top of the totem pole. You are the most deserving. You are superior. They fed this false notion of white supremacy and superiority. Right. So now when you face another person that might be better than you or more qualified than you at something, you feel this innate wrong. You feel like somebody's wronged you, but they led you astray anyway. Nobody's better than anybody. We're all the same. We're all capable. There's some of us that there's just a majority of numbers. And then that's why we can look superior. They're showing you what white male mediocrity looks like right now in the highest office in the land. And I don't want you to get tricked and fooled and get called to run again, to run at the top of your mic on January 6th, or go blow some stuff up, or cause you and your family harm. Because remember this, I work in my real life. People let me, Steph, into the most intimate parts of their lives. They let me into their families. Mm-hmm. I serve white clients, black clients, mm-hmm. Asian, Latino, basically if you speak English, these are the clients that I serve. And one thing I realize is crazy ain't got a color, because I know all of y'all. You let me into the intimate spaces of your lives. But I see what's happening with the victimhood. The same thing happened with black guys a few years ago. Mm-hmm. Black guys, you're the biggest victim. And if you white fellas want to go the same way that we saw happen with black guys, they're trying to control you and herd you. Mm-hmm. And they might suppress this, what I'm saying, but if you don't see that you're being herded into a cult of like-minded adult and child incels, that's one of my missions this year. We can move on, Steph.
Just to wrap this up, the biggest thing for me was to make sure you were okay. You know, mm-hmm. Right? I was like, because I had stepped away. Because I knew, you know, I'll be honest with you, I saw what the production company was doing, and I saw in the direction they were going, but I also knew, and I don't want to get into financials, but what your deal was, and I was like, Naja, you're set. You know, you're going to get what you were told you were going to get, but this is going to be tough. But I walked away because I knew I wasn't,
it wasn't your initial vision.
No, it wasn't like, it became a shit show, like of clicks and, you know, clickbait. Like, you know, that's what they were trying to do. So anyways.
And George ended up getting sentenced to 87 months.
And went to prison.
And he went to prison for less than 90 days, and Trump commuted his sentence. So everybody got a happy ending. And George and I are still friends. I know that's an unpopular thing to say, I guess, but I got a chance to see his humanity. We got the same birthday, if that says anything, but I got a chance to see this guy's humanity.
Right, like I liked him. Like
he's a very likable person.
He's a likable person. The most interesting thing he said to me, and I understood this, was that, and I think it's important for everybody to understand this, what George did was something that he learned from the broken political system. And what he did was the tip of the iceberg. Okay, I think they used people's credit cards and charged them. But why did he do that? Because he was in an environment that said, this is okay. Mm-hmm. You can do this.
But you don't get caught, because if you get caught, we're going to abandon you and we're going to blame you.
Right.
And we see it happening with a lot of figures. I think what George did, because he is a person of color, he turned this system that allowed him... Still, you're so shady. He turned this system that allowed him in by the skin of his teeth. He turned it on this underbelly and he showed all the flaws, and it pissed him off. George showed that the system is whack and broken. George was able to lie on his resume and then get a position in Congress. He was able to schmooze. Congress.
Right. Like, that's a really interesting point. Mm-hmm. Like, let's look at that.
He embarrassed the system. So that's why they wanted to stick it to him. But
and that's why they let him, that's why Trump let him out of prison, because they know George knows where the bodies were buried. One thing I knew about George, and this is what he told me, no one else knows this. He went to everybody and befriended them and knew their dirt.
And he
knew where the bodies were buried, knows their dirty secrets. So hands were tied that they needed to let him out of prison, or George was going to talk. And he was going to talk about everybody. And he knew, and he's a wild card, right? When you it's like a tiger. When your back's into the corner, what are you going to do? You're going to strike. So
he didn't snitch,
they knew that was coming.
He said, you know what? He took his sentence on the chin. They told that man 87 months for wire fraud when we've seen the felon that's sitting in office in the highest office in the land that hasn't done a day? So he took it on the chin. He went and said and did his time, and grace his lucky stars, he's out right now, and hopefully.
And he should still talk. If he had balls, he's out. Trump let him out. Now talk.
George is smart. George is brilliant.
No, he's not.
He's smart. George is one of the most brilliant motherfuckers that I have worked with. And I say brilliant, that means in people skills. I'm one of them. And I say just people skills because George is charismatic. And the people that came in through that podcast, like I interviewed my first billionaire because of George. George still has these relationships, even though he did what he did. Mm-hmm. Me and Isaiah Washington, of all people, have become friends.
Right.
Yeah, so I met some people and I now have some access in rooms that I did not have before. And he willingly and freely opened that door for me. Okay. And has not closed it. So I'm like, and that's, hey, George, he the homie. He the homie for me. And I know a lot of people hate that. A lot of people were looking at me like, why the fuck are you sitting with him? I'm a studier of human behavior.
I like George.
And I needed to understand how this man's mind works. I would interview Donald Trump. It wouldn't go like what y'all see. I wouldn't be piggy. I wouldn't be too many goddamn piggies. But I would sit with Trump because I need to understand before the dementia takes his brain how his mind works. Ready to move on, Steph?
Yeah, this is a real good time to move on.
So, Steph, this year you executive produced on A&E's Lie Detector.
Right, which, circling back around, that is where this all began. We were looking for celebrities or big name people to strap up for a lie detector test. Going through the list, my producers had pulled George, and we interviewed him, and that's where I met him, and I loved him. And then the network just went in a different direction, which was we wanted to just do big murder cases. But when I had met George, I was like, hey, there's something charismatic about this guy. I'm an executive producer. I'm here to, create talent. And, that's where we
And you've been doing investigative journalism at this point for how many years?
Well, I'm going to date myself.
That's okay. How many years?
It's been over 20 years.
Over 20 years.
Yeah, I'm almost 25 years out. I've been
so almost as long as I've been alive.
I've been, an investigative journalist, which has allowed me some incredible opportunities, which we're not going to get into today. But now I'm, still doing a little bit of that, but I'm executive producing and a development exec, and looking for amazing people like Naja to come forward and tell great stories. So, anyways, yes. So I did that.
So then you were on Peacock's Pathological, and his name is Joran van der Sloot.
Joran van der Sloot. Yes, I appeared in.
And I saw his name in the news the other day.
Yeah, so I appeared in a documentary called Pathological on Peacock, and the reason they reached out to me is it's interesting because they're kind of bringing back what people are calling all these old crime stories. I was like, oh man, I covered that, so I guess I'm old. Joran van der Sloot was accused at the time of murdering Natalie Holloway, who disappeared in Aruba on a spring break. For years, he was a prime suspect, but they could never really pin the murder on him. When I was working for Fox News, yes, I worked for Fox News, I traveled to Thailand, where Joran van der Sloot had ended up. And I encouraged him to do an interview, and he told us another version of the story that of what had happened to Natalie. Let's jump ahead. There's no secret that I paid him $25,000 to tell the story.
Okay.
He says we did the interview with Greta Van Susteren from Fox, who I was working for. And no, he was not in prison then. Okay. Then he does the interview and sends us a text. I didn't do this. Everything I told you was a lie. I just did it for the money. He had a terrible gambling addiction at this point. About 2 years later, he reaches out to Natalie's mother and says, for $250,000, I'll tell you what I did to your daughter. In desperation, they agreed to pay him. So they give him 10%, which was $25,000, which was the same amount I had paid him. That was always his goal. They pay him. He takes the money and leaves Aruba and goes to Peru, and within days murders Stephanie Flores, and Natalie Holloway's mother and her attorneys still to this day feel like they're responsible for the murder of Stephanie Flores. Jump ahead to last year. He admits that he was actually involved in Natalie's murder, tells us his latest version of what happened to her. And that's when we asked me to come and produce the documentary and talk about my relationship with him. Jump ahead to this week, he tried to kill himself in prison. And I said to Naja, he attempted to kill 2 girls, murdered 2 girls, not attempted. He murdered 2 women, but then he fails at taking his own life. And I don't mean to be callous or cold about it, but it's like, really? So yeah, that was interesting. So it's funny how those stories stayed with me for so many years, right? Like I was doing my job. I was assigned to go to Thailand, find him, lock him down, get an interview with him, set it up for Fox News, and I ended up by spending 2 weeks with this guy who's a killer. And now in retrospect, everyone's like, you did what? But to me, it was just like another day on the job. Like, I don't really think, is that weird? Like, I don't think about it. And then they're like, well, I produced a documentary about what you did. I'm like, all right, like, let's talk about it.
You're still making money off of stories, because I remember Natalie Holloway's story. Is that over 15 years old? When did she?
Natalie, oh gosh, you're going to put me on the spot. I think it was.
This is double digits. So this is a story that's aged.
Yeah.
Because I remember being much younger.
But it's trending on, it's funny, it's trending on TikTok now. I'm noticing like kids, I call you kids, I love you guys, I call you kids. And then I'm like, oh my God, I covered that story. Like, I guess I'm like the grandpa of crime.
You're the OG.
True crime OG.
He's a true crime OG,
so
straight up.
But I love to talk about it. But anyways, here we are all these years later. I'm really glad Natalie's
and he
mom
tried to take his life. So, and you've sat in the
but
room.
So you mean to tell me you brutally murdered 2 women, but you tried to take your life, but you failed?
And it's proven that he did take the life of the second
yes.
woman.
Yeah, 100%.
And has he?
It was on video.
And has he admitted beyond a shadow of a doubt that he did also take Natalie Holloway's life?
So that's a good question. He had turned the murder of Natalie Holloway into a cottage industry. Every time he needed money to fuel his gambling addiction, he would say, hey, I have another version of the story. And because, she was pretty missing white girl, we call it pretty missing white girl syndrome, big story, the media would jump, including myself, where we would be like, all right, what does he have to say? So
he knew he had a thirsty audience.
Right, he did. And he would, but behind the scenes, we would have meetings where we would say, let's pay him this money, because if he's going to give us information about where she is and bring us closure and bring the parents closure, it's worth it. For Fox News, $25,000, it's nothing, right? Me brokering that deal, was I uncomfortable? Yes. Did it make me feel dirty? Yes. Did I do it? Yes. I did it because that was my job.
You wanted the story, you were trying to do a job.
Right, exactly. So
how was it sitting there with this sociopath? Did he try to manipulate you? Did you find him likable?
Well, that's interesting. In the moment, he's got his end goal, which is to get the money, and I have my end goal, which is to get the story. Okay, so we have this arranged. People understand relationships. Right? We all go into relationships like with end goals. So, but he got agitated when there was wire transfers involved, and at the time, you could only do less than $5,000. So we agreed to pay him $25,000. So then I had to fly back to the United States, get money, and fly back with, at that point it was $10,000, which was more money than I was legally allowed to bring into the country. So I was put in a position to be dishonest with customs. How much money do you have? I have $5,000. I didn't. I had $10,000, right? And then I remember the final $5,000, which was being wired, didn't come in time. And I saw him get agitated. And I thought to myself, I'm in a hotel room, face to face with a guy who I know murdered somebody, and I could see the agitation. Because his end goal, he didn't care about me. His end goal was the money. His end goal was,
when he was coming, he was meeting you in your hotel to do this interview?
We we're in Thailand, and he lived in the outskirts. What happened was, just so you know the story, he's originally from the Netherlands, and he was attempting to he was living in Aruba, right, which is beautiful.
With his family or just
with his
vacation?
family, which is where the Natalie Holloway.
Did his family have money? Was this a
Yes,
wealthy
his father
kid?
was a judge. His mother was a school teacher on the island. And they had money. He had gone back to the Netherlands to study because there was so much media pressure. He was attempting to go to Australia. Customs stopped him and said, "You can't come." So his quick thinking was he ended up in Thailand, which would allow him into the country because he had a friend there. So that's when I made a connection with him, and I'm like, he's in Thailand. He wants to meet with me. And that's when Fox News flew me over there.
Wait a minute. This is before Instagram and TikTok.
Yes.
How do you get Joran?
We were emails. I know, right? This is like, yeah,
Because you can't
to
just
the younger
slide
generation.
in his DMs. You have to find this guy.
And emails, and then there was like some ability to call me, and it's so weird that you asked that question because I wasn't able to keep records of stuff.
Yeah.
I wish I could go back and say, "Hey, Naja, here's now I can show
Here's
you
an email.
1,000 messages." Right. So he, was emailing Greta, who I worked for. Greta Van Sisson was a pretty well-known host. Pass the baton to me. I was the one to go in and do the dirty work, which was broker the deal, exchange the money, and get the interview. This is how it was done back then. Didn't feel right. Wasn't good. But gosh, I forgot his last name. At the time, the network exec was Bill, who went on to be Trump's White House. Oh gosh.
Something we can look.
Right.
We can go.
Yeah, look it up.
Yeah.
Bill had called me. Bill's a nice guy. He ran the White House for Trump in the first term. Left Fox, and he said to me, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "Yeah." I said, "Things are getting a little." He's like, I respected Bill because he said, "If it's not, just get on a plane and come home."
You need to. Yeah, you can leave.
I know.
Abandon ship. This is
because I'm a TV producer. I'm an investigative journalist. Like, no, I want to get this story.
But you're like, this is like why you live for the job. You like, I'm sitting in the room with the killer.
But in retrospect, I was part of the machine that paid him money to fuel his gambling addiction. That led to him meeting Stephanie Flores in Peru. That ultimately led to her murder. And her father was a very big political figure. He was like the president of the United States in Peru. So he's now sitting in a Peruvian prison for her murder. He was able to father a child, and now he's attempted to take his own life. But here's wait
a minute, Sloot fathered a child
while in prison. But here's where the story falls apart and where I want to get to. This week, they're like, Ron Vandersloot attempts suicide in prison. I know him. He brutally murdered 2 women. If he wanted to kill himself, he would have.
This was a ploy for attention.
And I have pictures of me and him together, which I'm happy to share with you. Which we can pop up. Yeah.
Oh, my God.
When I was looking a little younger, but anyways.
So, did he seem like a nice guy? Because sociopaths and psychopaths are pretty charismatic.
He did. And part of my job was because there was a delay in the financial transactions.
He was agitated.
Right, but I had to entertain him, which meant take him to dinner. I was in Thailand. I don't know if anybody's familiar with Thailand, but they have custom tailors. We went to buy a suit.
I thought you were going to say something about the lady boys.
No, we went to buy a suit together. Like, I wanted to get a suit. Joran Vandersloot took me to a tailor. Like, I needed to buy time. We went to the highest bar, and I watched him. There was a bar that was like the highest. Like, I had endless money. I needed to do.
You had a Fox budget,
right?
So you had.
So right, he was staying at the finest hotel. It was a beautiful hotel, and I needed to entertain him to keep him there till we could get him the money that he requested, and to get Greta over there to do the interview. Which I was a cameraman as well at the time, which I filmed. So there I was, having a cocktail, hanging out. Girls were coming around. And I'm like, Steph, this guy's a killer. To both of us. Like we're at a club.
And you're like, girl, please leave because this man has already
trust me. I had my eyes on it. But he was a charmer. Remember, he needed something from me.
Okay.
He had an end game, which was the money. And I had an end game, which was the interview. He got incredibly agitated when the money was delayed. And that's when Bill came in, and said, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "No, but I'm gonna get through it. I'm gonna get through this." And it was in retrospect, And it's funny, I've never talked to you about this as a friend.
Yeah.
I realized what an incredibly...
And I'm hearing this for the first time, too.
Right, she's hearing this for the first time. What an incredibly dangerous situation I was in. I was with him like you and I are right now, face to face, in a hotel room in Thailand. He wasn't getting what he wanted, which was the money. Because, you know, wire transfers, it was different back then. You could max do 5,000, okay?
Yeah.
So I saw him get agitated, and I was a little unaware of my personal boundaries. And now I would have been like, I'm out.
But
back then I was like, I need the interview, I need the interview, I need the interview.
Yeah.
And I realized I put my life at risk because he went on to brutally, violently murder Stephanie Flores in that hotel room. It was a messy, bloody murder, which contrasts what he did with Natalie Holloway, because it was such a clean murder, which leads us to believe that there was other people involved. Probably his father was a judge. But anyways, it was an incredible story. My heart goes out to the family.
Yeah.
I'm still friends with Beth Holloway. There's actually a Netflix special coming out on this. Coming up, yeah.
Are you on?
Yeah, no, they haven't called me yet. Okay. I haven't heard from them.
They haven't tapped you.
Right, they haven't called me. But
Netflix,
hey,
y'all need to tap this man.
Yeah.
He's set with Sloot.
Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna move on from this story. I was not planning on spending this
Let's
much
move
time on this.
We probably
but wait, so he fathered a child. Who is the baby mama and where did this happen?
It actually, Naja, if you watch my special on Peacock, Pathological, which I suggest everybody watch. I'm not promoting it. But
I saw it. I watched it.
The mother was, she was in there. She was one of the local girls who claims she didn't know who he was. And, they're able to bring the inmates gifts and things like that. And, their conjugal visits. And she ends up with a child, and she ends up by regretting it when she realizes not only what he had done, but that he had murdered the daughter of a very powerful political figure in Peru. It's a really interesting story of power, corruption, greed, sexual abuse, privilege. Yeah, privilege.
All of the things.
Great. And I've had conversations about this. Natalie's story got the coverage because it was pretty missing white girl. Pretty
blonde hair, blue eyes.
Pretty missing white girl syndrome.
Perfect phenotype for people to care. It's like a delicate looking victim.
And I'm not saying her story didn't deserve the attention, but there's so many stories of beautiful
hundreds of
black
thousands
women,
of women that go missing
black
every year.
men that are just not covered by the media.
People of color.
Right. Like we, in the media, we have a tendency to highlight, and I've been in meetings like this. This is why the business doesn't like me. I'll say, guys, we highlight women, stories of women killers, like Jodi Arias, Casey Anthony, all these, but over victims of color, like Yolanda Holmes, or so like let's switch the narrative, and that becomes a very unpopular opinion as a white television producer.
I think it's very lazy to say, "Oh my God, that's racist," but what's the fucking reason why the networks aren't looking into?
I'll tell you why. It's very honest. There was a narrative that we would be in these board meetings, and they said, white people don't care about black on black crime or black murders. So I let it slide. And one day I said, where's the stats? Can somebody show me the numbers? Where's the stats? Where's the numbers? There was no numbers. That was a false narrative created out of historic and systemic racism. Right? People assumed that people that look like me wouldn't care about people that look like you that were murdered. Does that make sense? So I was like, I called it out, and I became incredibly unpopular.
I know that caused you some problems with work and finding work and being ostracized for years, being like, wait. And Steph is Canadian, by the way, y'all. I don't know if that, he's
Canadian.
He's a Canadian white.
But let me just finish with this. As a television producer, I was looking at incredibly interesting stories of murder of people of color. I didn't care if you were black, Asian, brown, whatever, Hispanic. I'm like, this is a really interesting and compelling
people need to know about this.
But then I got roadblocked by the network, like, but they're not white. But so, like I'm telling tales.
Yeah, the powers that be are saying these stories are not as important because they're not going to get interest. But
Right.
one thing I find is if you build it, they will come. If you show the people these particular stories, they start to feel empathetic. So I feel like the networks and the powers that be do have a special interest at certain people being humanized and certain people being discarded like trash.
But people like you and I think your followers, I hate to use that word followers because it feels like a cult, but
people that support me, my supporters.
But they change the narrative. TikTok, Instagram, Snapchat, you guys changed the narrative because those stories mattered to you, and all of a sudden there was millions of hits on stuff like that. I'm segueing into Romeca. Like so now there was stories of women of color victims or men of color victims, not men of color perpetrators or women of color perpetrators, because it was always boogeyman black guy did this, right? Easy narrative.
100%. It's easy to make the black guy look like the black on black crime when wasn't that like a Reagan term? Because like white on white crime is a thing. Y'all kill each other. We kill each other. The Asians kill each other. We typically are going to harm the people that are in our
but the media only cared about white on white crimes, right? Like Joran,
and they cared about
Natalie,
demonizing
Scott
black
Peterson.
If you're a part of the fucking media and you're perpetuating that stereotype, then you're more dangerous than any enemy, than any knife or gun out there. Because we are the ones with the microphones. And if you are a part of the media and you know for a fact that the statistics show people are going to harm the people that are near them, meaning white folks are killing white folks, black folks are over there doing their thing, the Asians and Hispanics and everybody else. If you're a part of making and I do have a bias because I'm a black person. If you're a person that's making the black guy, like Steph said, looking like the big bad boogeyman just for clicks and views, you are just as despicable as the network heads that are doing it for money. Like you literally are.
One thing I'd like to tell everybody that's watching is where you and I bonded is you were always in the area of family dynamics, right? Right? You know, trauma, blended and black. And I would deal with family dynamics, which would lead to murder. That's where we really bond. I don't care what color you are, but I like to tell compelling stories so people could be like, how did that happen? And how can let's have a conversation around it to avoid that kind of trauma. Romeca, this is all leading into where we want to land.
So before we go there, I do want to talk about Elon Musk. So when I was working with George, I know George had a connection, and you introduced me to Joe Francis, who has Girls Gone Wild. Joe Francis.
A lot of people, probably younger generation, probably doesn't know him.
Ah man,
but look him up. Joe. I love Joe.
Joe is an infamous character. Joe has a connection to Elon Musk. I'm from Memphis, Tennessee. And Elon Musk is building a supercomputer called XAI in my hometown, right around where my grandma used to live. It's emitting fumes. It's already destroying the water and air quality in my hometown. So again, I have a personal interest in this story. So I started when I was going home to Memphis. I went to see the supercomputer. I could smell the fumes in the area. There's people already getting sick, and the same thing that happens that happened in Louisiana, where children were born with birth defects. Water system is completely tainted. People are just now starting to be able to move into the area, the specific part of Louisiana. Same thing happened. And so I started screaming on the internet about this, and Steph saw it, and Steph was like, and this is a long-time investigative journalist. Like, I'm just a person that was out there talking. He was like, Naja, you're doing some good investigative journalism. And I was like...
it was authentic, Naja. And that was at the height of Elon Musk being in the press through the Trump administration. And me understanding, what they were doing. We've seen this fucking story, pardon my language. Again, let's go into the poor neighborhoods. I want people to understand. Do you realize that these AI companies, in 1 year, used more water than every bottled water company in the world to fuel the cooling of those systems?
In 1 year.
So they need these. So what are they going after? And this is really important. Listen, they're going after the farmers, and they're going after the poor black neighborhoods to annihilate them, to build these incredible factories to fuel AI. why do you think the farmers are being starved? So when you started on this, and again, I was guiding you through this. I'm like, Naja, you're onto something way bigger than you realize. And I talked you through.
Yeah.
You're
and you think I got crazy emails with that YouTube teenager? You should see some of the messages and things that I've gotten from people that don't want this story exposed. Which is, we'll talk about the dangerous part of investigative journalism. But go on.
No, I just think that it was a really important story to tell. It was personal, and it's like people need to understand this is happening. When you see floods and fires and annihilation going on right now, it's happening because these AI companies are going to go in and take over that land. They have to they have to feed the beast.
Yeah.
And how do you feed the beast? You need land and you need water. I mean,
you need clean air, land, and water.
Why do you think they're starving the farmers?
And you need disenfranchised people that nobody cares about, because they're not going to go put it in the rich neighborhoods in Lower East Side Manhattan or Germantown, Memphis, Tennessee. Right. They're going to put it where the people, they don't really care about the people. Right. Who cares if the old man is getting, and his entire family is getting lung cancer? Right. Like, who cares if the baby's born with birth defects?
Nobody cares.
The purpose of me telling this entire story was Steph kind of gave me like a nod of approval into the land of investigative journalism. And I've always had a curiosity about human nature, which is why I do what I do. And, from somebody like this that has a long-standing career that's been bona fide, that's worked with some of the biggest names. He's sat with the serial killers, and he's Nancy Grace approved, and he's done all of these things. He's sat with politicians to understand the way their mind works. To be qualified felt really good for me. I ain't gonna lie. So that led me into talking about this one story that I saw in Chicago, because it mixed investigative journalism with what I do is work with people in very high conflict situations. There's a young lady, a 31-year-old mother in Chicago named Romeca Meeks, that was gunned down in September 8th to be exact, right after she had dropped taken her son something to school. She saw her ex-boyfriend of 9 years and his new child's mother. Now, these two women were into it. They did not like each other. They had had words before. Romeca saw them and allegedly spun back around and went over to approach them to talk, to confront, or whatever. That ended up in Romeca losing her life that day. The other child's mother, the man's other child's mother, and the child was in the car, ended up shooting Romeca 4 times. She passed away that day. And I talked about the story online, and Steph called me up. He was like, hey, I know some people in Chicago PD. I can
because I lived it, just so full disclosure. Yeah. I worked for Good Morning America, ABC News, based in Chicago. And one of my dearest friends now is a sergeant with the Chicago Police Department. Over the years, you build contacts. They trust me, I trust them. And I was like, wait, my friend's partner is one of the investigating officers on this case. If you're going to do this, let me make sure you've got the facts. Let's get the right information, right? That's really all I cared about, because we live in TikTok world, we live in online world where people are making up stories and making everything. And I think Naja did a great job. Really, congrats on keeping it straight. And at the time, I was really, again, circling back, I was super sick with cancer.
Of him.
I wasn't feeling good.
Right.
And, it was just like, hey, let's lift up my friend. She's doing this. And it was great. You did a good job.
He came and showed up, and he validated me in a space. He gave me information and intel, a lot of which I caught flack for, because number one, who is this new girl talking about this case? How do you know what you know? And one thing I've learned from the investigative journalist, you don't reveal your sources. So I couldn't say, and I still am not going to say, hey, this is where I'm getting things from. So it looks like I'm making up things or saying things prematurely, but Steph has kind of really taught me a lot. Can we talk about that case a little bit? And if you guys don't know about it, you got to go and review my old videos, because it goes down.
And can I just jump in? Yeah. One of the things that was fascinating about this case, similar to like the Natalie Holloway cases, there's so much conflict on TikTok, and all the people fighting and arguing, and you see the videos of baby mama drama. This case became, I think, to me, a bubbling of everything wrong. Yeah. Right. The baby mama drama, the dropping of at school, where she ended up losing her life. And I think it resonated with people because they're like, enough is enough. Yeah. Like this, she was beautiful, she was young, she wasn't perfect, none of us are. And then it became a game of who's to blame. Is, many of us guys are like, it was his responsibility. He should have stepped in and made sure this didn't happen. Did the new baby mama have was she vindictive to it? It really became the poster child for this kind of drama online.
Yeah.
Right? I really believe that, and
that's what it's
people always say,
become.
why are you so focused on this story? It's like, because we need to talk about this kind of conflict.
Yeah.
Because it's got to stop.
Because that girl should not be deceased today.
Right.
That girl.
And this was your brand. This was a perfect blend of our brands. Your family conflict, right? How to avoid it from ever getting to that point, which it should never have gotten to that point. And then I'm the point of, now there's been a murder. What happens? What's the or a shooting? And I always said to you, like, Naja, this was more than we believed it was. Like, this wasn't. I never believed it was self-defense.
He didn't.
No.
Steph never, ever thought it was self-defense.
Which is what she claimed.
And I always, in my line of work, I'm taught and trained to be, people are on the social media, they're like, oh, you're on so-and-so's side. And I try to reiterate, just because I'm not saying death to this person and hang this person, that doesn't mean I don't have thoughts and opinions, but I always try to look at even things that I don't want to look at with an unbiased eye. And saying, okay, how do we put all these pieces together? Because for 15 years now, people have been letting me into their high conflict baby mama, stepmom, baby dad, stepdad, grandma. They've been letting me into their scenarios. And one thing that I've learned is it's never as clear as we think it is. But in the beginning, you definitely were like, hey, I do think the father, Carlos, who was still active on social media, he shared a child with the deceased. He's not been able to see that child since she was killed by his other child's mother. So I do think he triangulated these women. I think he was going back and forth. I think it was messy. But I don't think anybody should be dead. Why on earth was a weapon pulled? Was this woman in fear for her life? Or did she say, this is a perfect opportunity to take this girl's life because I already don't like her?
Get her out of the picture.
That's for the courts to decide.
I think there's I as a man, as a male, and I've talked to your husband about this. I think that there's a big responsibility on, like, we are responsible, especially in a situation like that, and you've experienced this yourself.
Absolutely.
To control the communication or the situation, to reduce the conflict.
But I also know
that's our job as men.
But I also know that when women are at each other's throats and women are at war, what can you really do? What can the man do besides saying, hey, you stop and you stop? Because we've all of us watching this has probably had some beef with some ex or something, whether you went into it deep or not, whether, none of us got this far, thank God, I hope. But what is the man's responsibility besides trying to stop it? Do I believe that he was dealing with both of these women and they both had heightened emotions? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Is that
we know that for a fact. We
do know that for a fact. But is that a criminal act? Should this man be indicted because he was involved with both of his children's mothers? Like, that's something that the courts are going to have to. We don't have enough evidence.
Let me tell you something.
Okay.
If this was a white story, if they were white, if Carlos was white, and this would be a huge story in the media. I don't care what anybody says. This story would be. This is a big story online, but you're not seeing 2020. You're not seeing Dateline.
Shade Room just covered it the other day. The Shade Room, who just picked it up.
But it's that's
TMZ hasn't picked it up.
Right, exactly. Like if I took this into a network, I would probably get rejection and not traction, right? Which is unfortunate. So again, I'm just circling back to the earlier conversation we had, and because of that, people are able to get away with this kind of behavior. I think that this behavior is acceptable because they're marginalized and they think that we don't care, and we do care. We do, and that's why I'm really glad that you kept on this story, and I was able to help you with it. It
feels personal because the thing that we didn't mention earlier is there was the reason I found out about the story because there's a viral video of a few moments after the shooting. So you could see the other woman there, practically a smoking gun, and the other woman that had just shot her, she was like, oh, I have a license to carry, it was self-defense. And you see the other man, the father walking around looking whatever he befuddled with blood all over him. So we saw the video, and then pictures of this beautiful woman, the deceased, started to come out. And then they showed a letter that she had just put in her son's lunchbox a few minutes before that. Like, hey, baby, have a good day at school. So we're all drawn to this story because these are human beings. And then another video was released when a few weeks later, another video was released of the mother right after she had been shot. And you could see the final signs of life moving her body because she's moving around and her body's probably in shock because her soul is leaving her body. And then we saw that. So we're all deeply connected. Like, we didn't see Natalie Holloway in her last few moments of life, but we saw Romeca Meeks in her last few moments of life, which made us sympathetic to it. So why in the fuck are the networks not picking the story up? Why is this not on a 2020 or a Dateline?
You know what? I can't answer that. I don't know. I think what's important for people to know is Holly is now behind bars.
Yep,
on
she is.
This case, which is good. I mean, Chicago PD did a great job on.
And we knew she was going to get indicted.
They were looking, and I want your viewers to know, they were looking at what you were saying. They were watching the videos. They were looking at correspondence. They were looking at conversations about, like, as an investigator.
Yes.
Like, I look at that stuff, right? Like, I'm going to go on and be like, and see, oh, this person said this. Wait, they seem to have personal information. I'm going to have a conversation with them. So don't think that, this sort of, these online armchair detectives don't go unnoticed. That's why I think everybody, and I would ask people that they have responsibility to make sure that what you're saying is truthful and what you're saying is helpful. Like, it's easy to get online and be mean and nasty and kind. We've seen that, and we live in a mean-spirited. Let's, going into 2026, band together and be like, I'm going to become part of the problem. Sorry, part of the solution. I'm going to become part of the solution and not the problem. And I'm going to have positive conversations because I think we saw that here. You and I were contacted by family members. I mean, they privately reached out to us. Can I talk to you? Can I tell you
From both sides,
From both sides. And when I felt there was something that was important, I talked to the investigators. I was like, listen, I've always worked like that. Hey, and it's very strange for journalists to be like, guys, listen, you should probably talk to this person. You should probably take a look at this. Because at the end of the day, I just want answers, and I want justice, and I want people to be able to take away from this tragic situation and avoid it from happening again. Because it's easy for all of us. We see it all the time. It's clicks and baits, right? Naja, like, people flying off the handle, like fighting each other, not paying at restaurants, beating it. It's like, guys, this needs
road rage incidents where you pull out a gun and just like that, you've taken someone's life
without thinking of the ramifications.
Right. So I think we live in a society where people have very low impulse control and they don't understand the consequences.
And people are fascinated by fame, or the new version of fame, which is TikTok famous. It's like, you're TikTok famous for all the wrong reasons.
And we do see, in this particular case, we do see some people that are garnering attention that they otherwise never would have garnered from their own endeavors or talent.
Right, and I was nervous about that, even me and you talking about the case, because I'm like, I don't want to jump on a bandwagon, but I'll certainly talk to you about it when we felt we had information. And I think we stayed in tune. I was like, Naja, there's going to be an arrest. In this case, there may be two. There still may be two. I'll go on the record and say that now.
I didn't say anything.
Right, so, you know what?
Okay, let's move on.
Let's move on. This is a good time to move on.
Also, y'all, listen, this is our year-end review, so we are celebrating with a couple cocktails.
Right, Naja News Cups. I love these, by the way.
I gotta get you one.
Yeah, what do you mean you gotta get me one? I'm taking this one with me. I'm putting this in my bag. This is so cute. No, these are great.
Yeah.
I love everything about you. Your brand.
Thank you.
It's cute.
Thank you. I've learned so much from this new area that I've leaned into from you. And
You're natural.
He and I have been friends for so long at this point, and I've watched him do. He's always like, "Oh, Naja, I'm shooting with A&E. I'm shooting with Discovery. I'm doing this today." And so he's brought me into his world and opened up this interest.
But besides that, I've felt like this is. I'm going to say this is going to be really deep for a lot of people. You and I are the biggest threat to America. Because Naja's black woman and I'm a white male, and they don't want us to be having conversations. They want us to hate each other. Yes. They don't want us to like each other. Yes. And that is not going to happen. And most of America, I feel like we're a reflection of what this country truly stands for. And, and the other thing I love about you is we're really able to have and you're one of the few people who are like uncomfortable conversations. Naja, I felt this way. And you're like, Steph, hey, this kind of made me feel this way. Or like things with George, like, Naja, this is what's going to happen. I'm walking away, but you need to stay. Here's why, but here's what to expect. Like, it's been great, right? Yeah. Like, and sometimes it's uncomfortable, and we've had our conflicts. It's never been perfect, but
that's life. That's what happens.
But I think like when I sit here with you, I want people to understand, like, they don't want us to be communicating. They don't want us to talk. That's why I love Steph and Naja. Like, I love us and our ability to come from completely different worlds, but be able to have honest conversations and help each other grow. Like, that's like, what is everybody so afraid of?
Because he grew up in, is it rural
Canada? Canada.
He's an immigrant from Canada.
Right.
I'm a girl from upper middle class, Memphis, Tennessee. Right. I live in Harlem. He lives in the Bronx, New York.
Right. I'm part of the LGBT plus community. I'm an immigrant. I'm on a green card.
And I should have been a supermodel.
Right. We talked about that. Me too. Right. But, so there's a lot of things that are bubbling to the surface that we can connect with and lean in to each other about discomfortability.
Straight up, Steph has access to rooms that easily, that he can meander around and not there won't be a blink of an eye. He has access to that, and he understands his power and his privilege, and he's brought me into those rooms.
Right, but you've done the same for me, though. Like, let's not diminish, like, and I've had conversations with your husband, Tony, many times about, is it okay that I'm here? Like, this is a private black space. I understand that, It's like, and people really need to respect that. If there's a group of women, if there's a group of men, if there's a group of gay men or gay women or black people, everybody deserves to have that private space.
True.
And you're like, right? Like, I never really kind of understood that. And there's times when you've been away, Tony's invited me over, and I was like, is it okay? Like, this is, and I respect that.
But you feel something a lot of white people don't feel. You have been the only white guy in the room with a bunch of black men.
At your party on Saturday, at your party the other night. Your Christmas party.
I think you might have been the only.
I was the only white guy there. I didn't care. I noticed it.
But he's part of the family, so he's fine. But you have experienced something that I would say a lot of white men cannot say. Right. Have you been the only white man in a space with powerful, good black people? When you're not in a space of superiority. You're not the police officer. You're not the boss. You're a peer.
And let me tell you something. That room frightens people. It frightens white elite America. And that's why you're seeing this dismantling of DEI, this dismantling of, because they're afraid, because they know that, that community has been, compromised and segregated, and they understand compassion.
When you spend a few centuries disenfranchising a group of people, and those people have still risen and risen and risen, you should be afraid.
Right.
Because you got them fucked up. Like, you said, oh my God, none of my tools and methods have worked. I've set fire to these people. I've hung them. I've castrated them. I've destroyed their family. I've pumped drugs into their communities, and they are still here. You need to be scared, because these people are superheroes. That still willingly allow and let you in, and don't really want to, we don't want the smoke. We are the smoke and we are the fire, but we don't want it. So that's a very scary position. But I think when you spent a few lifetimes trying to harm a group, and this group is still here, wouldn't that make you afraid of that?
Well, I think what they're really fearful of is they attempt to create a hatred for each other and segregation because they're afraid of this. They're afraid of what we can do together because we're not that different.
Oh my God, we're not.
So that's so again, it's part of the plan. Fear, divide. And it's like that's what really interests me so much about the work that we can do together. because that's what they're most afraid of.
100%.
Keep everybody say, if you got, look, a minority and a minority and a minority and a minority and a minority equals
that's a problem.
Equals what? A majority. You know, the LGBT community, the Asian community, the Black community, the Hispanic community, the
because
Indian community.
I have more
all
in
of us
common.
Together. They're afraid of all of us together. So
because
what
to be quite frank, Steph, I have more in common with the upper middle class, upper echelon white guy in Texas than he has in common with Donald Trump.
Totally.
Like literally,
yes.
We should be allies, but the trick of the monster of the system is to make you think that you're superior, to diminish me so that they can keep us separate. Because if we banded together, it's a problem for that 5% that they say controls 95%. We would legitimately storm the Capitol, but it wouldn't just be the crazy white boys that would be doing it. It would be all of us. There would be another French Revolution happening when we're going in there and burning it down and taking what's ours, and we're refusing to pay the taxes, and we're refusing to let them jail us, and we're fighting back against ICE. But if y'all are too goddamn dumb to see what's happening, I ain't talking to you, but I am talking to the people that kind of want to be on the other side of that. And Steph, this has gone on and on.
No, it's crazy times, and I want to say, moving into 2026, like I'm done with this nonsense, the narrative, listening to this negativity. I want to align with people who are moving forward. That's why I love Jasmine and Hakeem and Cory Booker and Gavin Newsom. And these people, let's look at forward thinkers.
I forgot to say something.
We're done.
I also think that JD Vance is going to grift and come back over because he made a really shitty video about Donald Trump, about how stupid he was and how much he hated him a few years ago. I think if something happens and he does come to power, I think he's going to be like, I got you bitches. Because he's a Tennessee. Isn't he from Tennessee? He's a hillbilly boy. Like, he's a country Appalachia boy. Like, grew up in poverty. Got in his school, the Ivy League school he did because of DEI. I would like to think that some people have a soul. I don't know.
You know what? Can I just say this? Yes. This is my advice, because I know how everybody feels, because I feel the same way. Look at this administration and this president like this. When I don't know if anybody's dealt with an addict or a drunk or somebody like that. You know what? Ignore the noise. Stop listening. Stop paying attention, and put your energy into positive thinking, love, being kind to each other. And if all of us do that and shift that energy, there's no other option but for things to change. Okay? Don't focus on, I don't even listen to the noise. I don't listen to the nonsense. I'm aware of it because I need to be, because of my business. Okay? But I don't let it affect me. It's like, I don't know, anybody who's dealt with a narcissist or an abusive relationship or an alcoholic, it's like, there's drunk Uncle Bob. Like, you know what? I'm not going to talk to him. Like, that's where we're at with politics. And trust that there is incredibly talented people that are working against this regime of hate. And we will prevail. Yes. We will prevail. Yes, things are bad right now, but go into the holiday season knowing that things are going to be better. Yeah. Knowing that love and compassion and friendship and collaboration will win.
We sound like a goddamn Hallmark special, but y'all, this ain't some bullshit. Like, before we end it though, Steph, I keep mentioning how you have been so pivotal in this year, in 2025 for me, and you've been like a great human being, and I'm so proud of you, and I love you so much.
I love you too.
And you helped me to make some money. So you never asked me for anything, but I just want to give you something for Christmas.
What is this? I'm not opening this on camera.
Open it. It says, read the front of it.
Naja, for Steph from Naja. Oh no, Naja, what is this?
It's just like a little Christmas card, because when people pour into you,
so sweet.
I'm gonna tell you this about me. My hands are always...
Naja, I'm not even you are not. This is going to charity. Naja.
Okay, fine, whatever.
Naja.
Well, listen, it's because I love you and I thank you. And when I can do more, I will. Naja. But that's a little something. Buy you a drink or something with that. Pay your rent with that. It's fine.
My rent's paid, but thank you. But
I love you. I love you
too. Mwah. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. And you know what? They're afraid of us. So let's keep touching. Naja and Steph. Hey, listen, if you guys want to see the Naja and Steph show, Steph and Naja for 2026, I am down. Dude, I'd love to have daily conversations with you.
I think that's a great idea.
This was all peaches and
but we got some real shit to talk about.
We disagree a lot. And you know what? Naja will call me and call me out on stuff, but you do it in a way where I walk away thinking, blah, 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 blah. So, thank you. Thanks for being a friend.
And same. That's what friends do for each other. Healthy conflict, healthy resolution, and we all live to see and talk another day. So thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of Naja News. I am Naja Hall. I want you to, if you liked this episode, tell us what you thought about it in the comments below. If you want to see more Steph, which I know you do, because y'all
serious.
always...
I'm actually a very... Naja knows. I'm like, take this jacket off.
We're gonna finish. Yeah, we're about to open this bottle of wine. So I want you all to enjoy your holiday season. Show love to the ones that you're with. Give love away, because it's something that reproduces freely and it's effortless and endless. And thank you so much for supporting me and the channel. And we will see you again in the new year.